far out, I'm a journeyman. And I was only 25 years of age at that point. And I didn't really embrace it early, to be honest. My son was born at the end of 2013. So before 2013, I'd played probably 50 games across 5 years.
Yeah.
From that point in time, like when my son come, I think I didn't miss a game I missed 2 games in my next 100.
Yeah.
There is Latimore, Jeremy Latimore. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Retiring from rugby league, that I spoke about, you lose an identity and you've got to build a new identity.
G'day, and welcome back to another episode of A Lot to Talk About. It is your boy, the captain of the ship, the man in charge, Bradley J. Driver. Of course, you can call me Brad. Pumped to be here. Got a guest on today who I've heard a lot of good stories about. We've just had a little bit of pre-ramble, and the pre-ramble got fucking good, so I thought we better turn these on and start having a crack. He is a former NRL player. He's played at plenty of the great clubs that I'm sure many of you will know, love and support. He's now a mortgage broker. He's a father of 2. He's a husband. He's, what I've been told, the funniest man that many people have ever met, but also a very educated and interesting fella. So from your home, your car, or wherever you are, give a very warm welcome to the one, the only, Jeremy Latimore.
Thanks, Brad, mate. I said in the pre-warm-up, mate, you were giving me a bit of a big head with some of that stuff you said. Very humbled and obviously, excited to be here, mate. I told you I saw a bit of your stuff, and when you reached out, I couldn't get on quick enough.
Mate, I appreciate it heaps. It's, for me, we spoke about it before this. It's always a privilege when I get to chat to different people. And I've not really had anyone who's done sort of like what you've done in the last couple of years, where you've transitioned from playing sport and being in that athletic space for so long, and then transition into the business world, a world that I kind of know too well because I was in that space, in the property space, and you're in mortgage broking. I'm keen to dive into all of that. I guess one of the things I remember about you playing footy, because I'm a big footy fan, probably less these days than I was like growing up, but I'm a Roosters man through and through. I'm a Chookies boy. But you played for a bunch of clubs, and I guess you're what some people would call like a bit of a journeyman of the NRL. And when I think about that, I think I like the way that you got to experience the game. Bunch of different clubs, bunch of different experiences. That kind of speaks to who I am as a person. I like to try things and be different places and spaces. But then there's a lot of people who'd probably get a little bit stressed and overwhelmed by that constant change and movement. Was that something you enjoyed?
Yeah, so the journeyman tag, I remember when it was after about me 3rd football club. I think it was when I was at the Dragons in 2012, actually, and I saw it for the first time in an article. I'm like, far out, I'm a journeyman. And I was only 25 years of age at that point. And I didn't really embrace it early, to be honest. It was something, I don't know whether it was immaturity and I remember the boys called me journeyman. I was getting embarrassed about it. But as I got older, and you reflect and you look back, and I was lucky enough to play for Parramatta, Cronulla, moved to New Zealand, and me and my now wife spent 2 years there, no children. Yeah, seeing all these parts of New Zealand where I wouldn't have been exposed to, and now I'm here, 35 years of age, and I look back on all the friendships I built across the 5 clubs that I did play for. It was a very unique experience. And, when I went to the New Zealand Warriors, for example, Jimmy Maloney's one of my best mates, and he came a week after I went there. But he, I walked in, I didn't know anyone. And Lou Brown. And I was so nervous, and obviously crossing cultures, you got Maori, Tongan, Samoan. Yeah. There's a few Aussie dudes there. But, by the end of my career, when I come back to Dragons, I knew 25 of the 30 players through my journey in rugby league. So, it's something that I really did love to embrace by the end of my career. And, I'm so grateful for the journey rugby league took me on. And, it wasn't always through choice that I changed at football clubs. It was, you're not needed anymore. Yeah. But we were talking about this before we started. Everything happens for a reason. And,
yeah, definitely.
As you look back on things that happened in time, and, getting told that, we don't need you next year. And at that time, you think your world's coming down. And then 2 years later, you're like, oh, that's why that happened. Yeah. And the world has a funny way of working like that.
What age did you debut?
So I was a late debutant, so I didn't debut till the year I was turning 23. So I had a couple of shoulder recos when I was younger.
Yep.
Didn't really look after it, getting on the drink and not doing my rehab properly. And ended up round 11 against South Sydney Rabbitohs, and it was the first Golden Point draw.
Oh, wow.
I remember Jared Hayne hit a field goal from about 25 out, and I thought it was going over, but ended up being a draw. So I was, obviously, you know, everything that you've dreamt of as a kid. And, you know, I was from Port Macquarie, and I had all my friends and family come, down from there. And obviously all my girlfriend at the time and family down here.
So Port Mac, how far is Port Mac from here?
From the Gong, it's about 5 hours. 5.5
Is that near Casino?
No, that's way north.
Way north.
Yeah, it's about an hour past Foster, 2 hours north of Newey.
Because I'm pretty sure one of my best mates, Fernie, is from Ty Grieve, is from that area.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, there's plenty of people you come across, even down in Sydney. I often run into a few of the Port Macquarie crew.
So for you, talk to me about that, because I'm always really interested as to people's sort of like upbringings.
Yep.
And I know that my upbringing shaped a lot of who I am.
Yep.
And I can imagine that coming into sport, like I was really sporty and really competitive as a young lad. And that was because my old man was really good at everything he done.
Yeah.
Put anything in front of him, and he was one of those guys, like, bit of a master of all trades. And that influenced me to love sport and to be competitive. But I can imagine that for you, there would have been a challenge around those injuries. Like, as a young fella, how does your headspace work at that point in time where, you know, you're seeing other guys you've played with competitively growing up who are getting their debuts at 18, 19, 20, and your injuries are pushing that timeline back for you? Are you stressing?
Yeah, so I'll go over a couple of things.
Yeah.
But, you know, I had a year off footy when I was 15.
Yep.
I went and joined the local bodyboarding association. Like, I'd been doing it for a few years, but I went in a few comps and that, and obviously that never worked out. And I went back to rugby league, and you know, I was a tall kid. I wasn't muscly or anything, and I would have been the 5th best player in my under 16 team at that point. But when I did come back, I just had I don't know what it was. There was a few things happening in my life when you're a teenager that end up setting you on this path to where you're meant to be. And like before that, like I was always a good player, but you know, I was an average player in the competition up there, so I didn't think I'd ever make the NRL. But you know, from my under 16 team, there was ended up being 4 of us went on to play NRL, which for a small country towns, quite crazy.
So who was that?
Jacob Selms. He played probably 20 or 30 games for Cronulla. Ryan Shortland played for the Warriors and Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
Scotty Duro, he played. He played a fair few games.
He was a half, wasn't he?
Yeah, for the Knights, and he went over to the Cat Lions.
Yeah, there you go.
So ended up. In my first year under 18s, I was coming off the bench where I spent a lot of my NRL career. Yeah. And, you know, I was like, far out, like I'm not as good as I think I am. And then that next year, I come out of the blocks. I trained really hard. I got after it all. Yeah. Summer, and I was playing like really, really good footy. And Cronulla Sharks asked me to come to a training camp, and I went down, and they wanted to sign me for that following season to come down and play Jersey Flag. And at the time, I think we're getting up to the North Coast level where you then go and try out for New South Wales CHS. And, you know, my goals have sort of changed now. I'm like, far out, I want to make Australian schoolboys. And I played an under 18s game, got a 100-metre try. I think I scored 3 tries, and they asked me to sit on the bench for the first grade team, make my first grade debut for the Port Sharks. And
there you go.
Anyway, went out and popped my shoulder, and I had to get a shoulder reconstruction. And I'd said to Cronulla, I'll go, look, I don't want to sign the contract. I just want to see how I go as I go through and play, you know, New South Wales CHS and see if I can make the schoolboys. Yep. Anyway, thank God they ended up signing me and got me down here to do my get my shoulder reconstructed and help with my rehab and that. Otherwise, you know, I could have went a very, very different path, and
for sure,
you know, I could still be living in Port Macquarie. But thankfully, they gave me that opportunity, and you know, they didn't have to. And you know, I look back on that as a crazy point in my life where I could have gone either way. Definitely,
it's funny. Hearing that makes me realise why you probably get on so good with Jimmy Storer.
Yeah.
You know, that those early injuries and those things that keep hindering the start. But that's, I think, the hardest thing is we often see guys, and we look at it now, we see it in like young footy players, when there's those like reoccurring injuries, you're like, fuck, I hope you can find a way through this, because you'd be gutted to see young talent not get a proper crack at least having a few good years.
Yeah.
because it is such a short thing. Like, I think that's the thing that sometimes as a fan you don't appreciate about rugby league. And I've been really blessed that through this podcast I've met a few league players and a few different athletes. And, you know, I'm lucky that nothing will ever stop me doing this as long as I can maintain general health and, you know, I've got a mic and an audio interface in front of me.
Yeah.
But if you're a rugby league player and your shoulder keeps popping out or you keep having trouble with that knee, mate, your life changes.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
you got to
for
find new direction. And when you're passionate about something, that's really hard to accept.
Yeah,
Well,
especially as a young kid as well.
For sure.
That is your world. You don't have children. You don't have a family. You don't have educated. Well, depending if you're a young switched on kid, if you're going to uni. But you know, that was my primary focus at that age. And anyway, I moved to Sydney. Missed the start of the year because I didn't look after my shoulder with the rehab. And anyway, come back, end up having an awesome year. We lose the game before the grand final. Back up in Port Macquarie, and I get a call off the who did I get a call? I think it was the late Steve Rogers to say that I'd made the junior kangaroo side, which
That's mad.
it was crazy. Like there was like Todd Carney, Mullen, all them boys who were already playing at NRL. I think Leon Bott was like the star for Broncos that year, and I just thought it was a massive G up, and I'm like, you're G'ing me up. Like anyway, it was a Stephen Bradbury effort. Like I think there was about 5 front rowers pulled out. I come through and. You know, I got exposed to high-level rugby league and was lucky enough to go out and play Papua New Guinea and Darwin.
That's sick.
Following year, playing reserve grade, got dropped back to Jersey Flag, popped the other shoulder, got to get another shoulder echo. And, you know, literally then I'm like, I could be done here. The Cronulla are like, we'll give you, I think it was like 5K, you can train part-time. And I was like, I'll have to take it, I don't get anything else. And just by chance, the Parramatta recruitment guy, Rod Reddy, he'd come to watch the other guy from Port Macquarie, Jacob Selms, play a reserve grade game a few weeks before I hurt my shoulder. And he went away more impressed with me. And
that's mad.
I ended up getting a 2-year offer off them. And that's where I lived next door to the great Jimmy Storer and lived with Jimmy Maloney for a couple of years out there and had a great time. And that's where I ended up playing my first game NRL footy. Did
you love footy? Like, because I think I can imagine I wasn't a good athlete in my late teen years. Like, I was fit and was a good sprinter early on, but I was never an athlete that had an opportunity to go do something professionally. And I loved it and I was good at it, but I can imagine that for some lads, especially in the footy space, you'd probably be really good at it, but you may not love it.
Yep.
Like, what was the situation like for you?
I always loved footy.
Yeah,
I was a massive footy head coming through, and you know, I always worked on my body to, you know, make sure I was fit to play. So after that second shoulder echo, I think I only had one more surgery after that. Like I was,
amazing.
Yeah, I got all my injuries out early, and I was saying to you about you know, the last 4 years of my career where you're really just grateful to be around the group. You know, your time's coming to an end, especially me. You know, I was never guaranteed to get another contract the next year. So, and that's where I really embrace, you know, getting around the boys and having a laugh and trying to get the boys up after a poor game. And then when we're winning, make sure we're staying humble.
What's that like? Because that's, you know, it's been so eye-opening for me to meet athletes, because from a fan standpoint, it's really easy to sit and be critical.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck, why didn't we win that game? Can't believe that result didn't go the way that I'd planned it. Like, as a fan, as I've planned it to, I'm devastated we didn't win that. But as an athlete, when you're living that, you know, you can't have that negative headspace all the time towards a result, right? Like, you've got to be able to like walk away from a poor result and go, yeah, we could have been better there. We've got to change a few things next week, but the show goes on.
100%. And obviously you get where the fans are coming, right? They love that team. So, you know, I played a few teams and a couple of very passionate fan bases, and, you know, you don't go out there with the mentality to go out and play poor and lose the game by 30 points.
No.
You know, just shit happens on the day where you aren't at your best. It might only be 1%, right? But the other team, they've prepared well, they've come out, they've executed, they've got the job done, and you walk off the field, you're like, far out, what happened? Like, and then you in your head already, you're going, what did I do last week? And obviously the coaches are like looking at the training schedule last week and how we trained, how our energy was, and trying to decipher why we played the way we did on the Saturday. So, and like you say, all right, you walk off the field, it's not going to help you if you're hanging on to that poor performance. So generally, get in the day after, do a bit of video review, go over where you could be better, got to flush it, and then you go and work on what you need to for that following week's game, and make sure you're in the best state you can be to go out and get the 2 points the following week.
Because I think there's this perception for fans sometimes, and like I said, I've been a passionate fan, right? So I understand it. And like I've been to the UK and I've been to London to watch the Arsenal-Tottenham derby. I've never seen anything more passionate in my life. Like they live for it. Like the result is life or death for these fans, right? They live for the game. And there are people like that with rugby league. And I was like that with the Chooks. I remember crying after a loss when I was a kid. Like that's kind of how I was. I was a passionate fan. And as you get older, you realise that there's more to life than footy. And I've realised that there's more to an athlete than someone who walks on the field and does their job. They're a human being.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing I was really frustrated about was after Origin, right? Origin Game 3 was one of the best games of footy I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Loved watching every minute of that. I thought both teams were incredibly passionate. Both teams put their bodies on the line. That was fast-paced, really hard footy for 80 minutes. And then the stories in the paper. Like if New South Wales won that, like just marginally different result, would have been the most passionate display and performance from a New South Wales team ever. But they lose by 8 points or 6 points, whatever it was. And the story is like, oh, maybe they just didn't want it more. There's not as much pride in the jersey. And I'm like, are you joking? And I'm like, and then there's people going, I can't believe they're not devastated after. Well, of course they are. But what do you expect them to walk around with their heads down, hating themselves for the next 3 months? They're human beings. They've got families. They've got partners. They've got lives to live.
Yeah.
And there's another game of footy a couple of days later they've got to back up and play.
Refocus, yeah.
Yeah, like,
sure.
I don't know what it is from the outside. But the thing that hurts me is I'm seeing, and obviously I'm not going to call out names. I don't want to put you in that position either, but I'm seeing ex-footy players who are in the media shitting on these blokes. And I'm like, surely you've got more empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
You were there once.
Yeah.
And I think that's the interesting thing for me now, and I love that the game and athletics and sport in general is getting to a point where there's more focus on mental health of athletes, because fuck, it would be hard.
Yeah, mate, it is a roller coaster. It's literally from round... the only time you're pretty steady is through pre-season, but your body's dead because you're getting flogged every day, but mentally it's pretty steady. You're not up, down, winning games, losing games, playing good, playing shit.
Yeah.
Coach likes you, coach doesn't like you. And then obviously then you got your personal life and you got stuff going on there, and you sort of need to separate the two, home, work.
Good, and that's it. It's work, right?
Yeah, it is.
Essentially.
But no, you're totally right. And, the State of Origin, it is the biggest spectacle in Australian sport. So there is a extra bit of spotlight and media, and, the media are paid to write, articles, and negative articles sell better. And, it was a phenomenal effort by that Queensland team who lost 2 of their players in the lead up to the game.
Yeah.
And their best player from game 1, Cam Munster, and then they lose 2 players in the first 5 minutes. We lose 1, and they just got the job done. But it wasn't through lack of trying by New South Wales.
For sure.
Yeah, like you say, there are people who do retire from their professional sport and go into the media, but they're paid to have an opinion and to give their thoughts. But there's never like I said, you don't go out there to lose a football game. Shit happens in that game that leads to that end result. But there's a guy in the AFL, Kane Corns. He's an ex-player, but he's always hammering the boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He's not real popular. He's an ex-Port Adelaide player.
I bet.
I always look at his stuff going, mate, you walked in them shoes, man. Like, you got
hard to
to ease up
imagine
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I love? Like for everyone watching, listening, before we turned on the audio today, we were just having a chat about different pods and sort of how our stories have connected. And I love that we were having a chat about, it seems like we listen to a lot of similar things, and you seem like you're quite a mindful guy, and we're talking about meditation and like Jay Shetty, listening to his show and that stuff. For you, were these sort of thoughts and processes and things around mindfulness and bettering yourself, was that a part of your life when you were playing footy? Or has it been more discovery post-footy as you're sort of figuring out who you are in the world again?
Yeah. So you spoke about Hugh from the Resilience Project. So I first come across gratitude because of him. Gratitude, meditation, empathy. I think they are the 3 things that he spoke about. So I still do it every day in my phone. Gratitude, 3 things I'm grateful for. and meditation. So I think I saw him a few years before I retired. So
where was that at? Maybe at Penrith?
He come to a couple of clubs. He was a part of the NRL where they'd like wellbeing, where he'd send him out to speak to all the clubs, because it's a fantastic story. And
unbelievable,
you know,
isn't it?
we've spoken about how you can fall into such a negative mindset and feel sorry for yourself. Whereas, you know, he speaks about his experiences and the one in India like this, and you know, being positive and grateful. And it's such a great story, that story. But yeah, so I did start trying to use meditation late in my career, but you know how you spoke about being alone with your thoughts, and my concentration levels weren't the best, but it was something I did try and do later in my career. But it's only really, I feel like, in the last year where I've really got good at it. And just trying to use that as a tool to get me in the best mental state I can be.
What's that journey like post-career? Because it's been how many years now?
I'll be 3 years, in a few weeks.
So it's still pretty fresh.
Yep.
And with that comes, like, when you walk away from having something that you do every day, like we're saying, like, I'm good mates with Loey, right? And I see Loey a couple times a week, or we'll speak on the phone most days, and it's like footy structured. It's get to training at this time, you got this on, you're at the club for a stack of hours that day, you're training, you're doing a few extras, you're watching a bit of video, you know, you're hanging around with the boys, and then you've only got so much free time. You've got a little bit of free time, but most of your week is structured, right? And then you walk out and you're like, oh my God, there's 7 days of the week and a whole life ahead of me, and I've got to figure out what that looks like now.
Yeah.
For you, you've ended up in, you know, a stable job, a 9 to 5, and something that's completely different to being an athlete. What did that look like? Like, how did you find mortgage broking? Were there a few options? And how did you figure out what direction you wanted to take?
Yep. Look, it is a massive period of transformation. And, you know, my identity for 15 years was Jeremy, the rugby league player. You know, you go to train every day with your mates, you take the piss, you have a laugh, you get fit, you look good, you feel good. You know, and it was confronting. And so, like the last few years of my career. So I finished a business degree at the Wollongong Uni in 2016, and started exploring what I was going to do post rugby league. And I went into Pepper Money, actually. They were sponsoring the Panthers at the time, and I didn't really enjoy that corporate environment. Went back to play for Cronulla Sharks, and one of my good mates, Tony Kane, he was mortgage broken down in the Shire. So I started going in with him when I could around my footy schedule last 3 years of my career. And I'm like, I've always invested in property, enjoy like making money, and you know, you're helping people. And I'm like, I think you know, you're out in coffee shops with being a mortgage broker, you're meeting people. I thought that really fits what I want to do post rugby league without knowing where it was going to take me. And also in my last year, when I was playing at the Dragons, because I was still up in the air, like they hadn't offered me anything yet. But Jason Nightingale was working in the corporate, and they come to me and said that there's a job opportunity there. So I'm still employed at the Dragons a few days a week to do a few things there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that come up as well, which, you know, that was stability for me as well, because with my mortgage broken, when I retired, I was self-employed. So if I wasn't writing loans, I wasn't getting paid. And, you know, I retired end of 2019. A few months later, Tony tells me he's getting out of mortgage broken. A month later, COVID hits, we're in lockdown. And, you know, I hadn't built up my network, you know, for people to write loans yet. So I ended up being the teacher at home for my young bloke. He was homeschooling.
Yeah, there you go.
My wife had a crazy job, so she was downstairs doing that, and I was homeschooling upstairs. So that period was, you know, it was up and down a lot. It was, really hard. And, you know, all the stuff that I learned through rugby league, the resilience and, you know, trying to build that routine. So you spoke about Loey, how everything's so structured and routine. When you're self-employed, like for the mortgage broken, I've got to do my own structure and routine. And so even now, 3 years after, I get a bit lost with that sometimes. Some days I'm a 10 out of 10. Too. The next day I'm a 1 out of 10. I can get so distracted, and because it's on me, I've got the freedom to do what I want. Like no one's paying me to do my mortgage broken. So if I want to go do something else, I'll go do something else. But that's probably one of the biggest challenges is the routine and structure. But, you know, I touched on my training like every day. I wake up, in the morning I do a morning routine before I go to the gym. go to the gym with an ex-teammate, Luke Lewis, every day. We do weights.
He's a fit bastard too, isn't he?
He's a machine, mate. You should see the rig on him. Not quite like mine, but a bit better. And, we have someone every day, and that's the connection, talking shit,
For sure.
having a laugh. And, he pushes me to train a bit harder. He counts me reps sometimes and catches me skipping a few, but he's such a good dude to be around every day, and then go home, see the kids and the missus, and get ready to go and build my routine for the day and do my work. And
what sort of training do you do?
With him, he just loves weights.
Yeah.
I did the Wollongong sprint try this year, so I did a bit of training with that, lat swimming and the bike riding and running, which I enjoy mixing it up.
Yep.
I did a bit of cardio today because Luke wasn't there. He was at a promo. Yeah. So, I love doing all sorts of training, and I'll do it forever. I was talking to a fella in the sauna today. He's 55, phenomenal shape, and you just said you just can't stop training. And I just look, talk about it every day. Like we'll train together forever because we, enjoy. You feel good about yourself. You walk out of there mentally, you're feeling mad.
Fuck, you feel
connection
so
at
sharp
the gym.
for it.
Yeah, they're awesome people at the gym, and that's relationships. And it is something that I talk about some days when you go to get out of bed, and that's something like fuck yeah, let's go get after it. It's
funny because for me, like I went through. I wish, part of me wishes that what I understand now about health and fitness, I understood a couple of years ago when I was in real estate, because I think mentally it would have made it a far better time for me. But I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it's led to me leaving my job and finding something that I'm really passionate and purpose-driven for. But training, I don't know how. Like last week, being stuck inside with COVID, mate, I miss going for a trot with my mates so much. Yeah. Like, I just wanted to get out and run. I just wanted to go hit some weights. Like, I love
with
training.
Your mates, she said you go have a coffee, it's connection.
It's the best,
you're feeling
mate.
good after training. Like
it's community.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that probably for you, like, is probably really healthy, having a mate to go train with.
Yeah.
Because you'd miss that after footy, right?
Sure.
You used to be around 30 blokes and training together and having a good laugh. And
yeah.
when you're down one day, one of your mates picks you up. When you're having a rough day in the weights room, someone else is firing, so you get G'd up too.
We got the sauna. It's the cone of silence for me. We get all our life's problems out in there. Yeah. And like you say, it's being able to talk to someone and have that shoulder to cry on.
Well, the thing for me, like, I hated running.
Yeah.
Hated running with a passion. Like, I was a sprinter growing up, so I'd never, like, anything over 200 metres for me was too far.
Yeah.
Like, even if 200 metre could have been 150, I would have been more stoked.
Yeah.
Well, I hated it, but I need to get back in shape. And a couple of mates invited me to a run club down at North Beach. It's called Active Boys Run Club, which was a couple of guys who just wanted to get off the piss on a Saturday night. So they started running at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Yeah. And they were like, opened it to the community. And a few people invited me. And getting down there, the idea is get down, run 5K, have a nice long black, jump in the ocean.
Yeah.
Fucking perfect.
Awesome. Yeah.
And I love the idea of a coffee and a swim.
Yeah.
But I was like, fuck, I'll struggle through the run. And I struggled for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Then I had a massive bleed in the lungs 3 days in a row, ended up in hospital, and I was like...
From the running brought that on?
Nah, just from being like infected in the lungs and just having scarring in my lungs. And I was like, I'm starting to enjoy this running. I hated the first month, like the runs were punishing. But I'm starting to enjoy this, and I want to do something to show that nothing's impossible for people with CF. I'm going to run a marathon. Yeah. So I started training, but honestly, the thing for me that was so crucial was having a community to do it with. And I actually had a young lad hit me up the other day. He said, I want to get off the piss a little bit and I want to start getting healthy. What would your advice be for building discipline? And I'm like, mate, build a community around yourself. Because if you've got a community, like, you're guaranteed to have shit days.
But that there's an ownership, and I know that with Luke. If I don't go to the gym, he's going to be into me, and if he dogs me, I'm filthy on him. So 100%. There's that ownership. Whereas if you're on your own, I'm going to go for a run in the morning. You wake up, look outside, it's raining. Put the cucumbers back on and go to sleep. But when you got a training partner in that community, you're like, fuck yeah, let's go get after it.
Well, it's funny. I was talking to one of the boys this morning. We do long runs on Friday. Yeah. And he sent me a message saying, we was having a yarn last night, and I said, are you running long tomorrow? And he goes, bloody oath I am. And he goes, how far are you going? I go, I'll probably just do 10. Because I ran yesterday, I ran this morning. I was like, I'll probably do 10. And he goes, I'm doing 12 to 15. And you know that if one of the boys is going a little bit longer, you're coming along too. Yeah. And that's the best thing, because in your head, you're like, you'll always take the easy option if you got the choice. And it's not always about punishing yourself. Like sometimes you got to enjoy your training, you got to be smart. But
Yeah.
to have a few mates who are there to pull you through when you're not feeling it, and I do the same for them when they're not.
Yeah.
It's great. There's so much power in it.
100%. And that's the rugby league environment, right? Where you got
Yeah.
30, boys filled with tests who are trying to get their best out of each other every day.
Definitely.
There's probably someone I think of, Cam McGuinness, mate. His mentality is like, and I don't know, I've always told you about him, but he's just a different individual. When you get in season, your body's sore and you're not that keen to do weights, mate. He's still lifting the same June in the middle of June as he was in February before he was playing games. And he's playing 80 minutes and pumping out 60 tackles. But
Everyone lifts when that's around, isn't it?
mate, for sure. And that's like, you look at him, you're like, fuck, don't be weak, Latsy, have a crack. Come on.
Well, that's the funny thing. I talk about it a lot. And me and my dad talk about it heaps. My dad's got a few close mates that he's had. My dad knows a lot of people. Like, he was a copper for years and always been around Wollongong, so he knows a bunch of people. But he's got a couple of closer mates where I've got a really good group of close mates, and I've got plenty of sort of acquaintances because I've grown up and spent a lot of my life here. But I've got really good mates. Like, and whether it's being able to go for a trot with a bunch of good mates or being able to sit down, have a coffee and have a really deep conversation, that's the one thing I'm really blessed I've never had any troubles with, is good people around me.
Yeah.
And it brings out the best in you.
Yeah,
and you need it.
Yeah.
You need it. And I encourage people all the time, like, have friends that you can have good, honest conversations with.
Yeah.
You can have a laugh and a bit of banter with too, but it's not all bullshit.
Yeah.
'Cause
you see the Paddy, the UFC dude, the other day?
Yeah.
There was some quotes getting around from him. Like,
Yeah.
obviously, after his fight the other day, he come out and said one of his best mates had killed himself back in
It's devastating,
England.
eh?
Yeah, and he's just like, mate, like, I'd fucking prefer him to tell me and have him cry on my shoulder
Yeah.
than now have to go to his funeral.
100%.
And that's what, connection and community and, having them close mates who you can lean on.
Yeah. Mate, it's devastating. I feel like we're at a really lucky point now where the stigma's kind of broken.
Yeah.
It's, there's still work to be done, but those conversations are more encouraging than ever.
Yeah.
And I love that we're getting to that place in that space now. And I'm really lucky. I've never had any rough issues with my mental health. And that's probably because I was blessed with the best bloody family in the world.
Yeah.
But I'm very aware that not everyone's blessed with that from the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's the people you build around you, and you can definitely, they say blood's thicker than water, and I love my family to death. Even if I had a choice, I'd pick them every day of the week.
And that's it. You can choose
Like,
your friends, but you can't choose your family.
Exactly.
So you are very lucky in that aspect. Yeah.
And it's pick those, and if if you don't have the immediate people around you at the moment, start bloody finding them.
Yeah.
Because they'll get you through anything.
Yeah.
It's great to have. It's
For
great
sure.
to have. Let's talk about your, playing at a few different clubs and your experiences.
Yep.
Is there like little things that you learn about yourself and about life from each of those experiences that like kind of makes you remember that for that period of your life and what it taught you?
Yeah, for sure. New Zealand Warriors, going across there, really out of my comfort zone. And, Ivan Cleary was the coach at the time, and Michael Luck, he's now, I don't even know what he is at the Cowboys, he's high up, could be not a CEO, but he was doing a Masters of Business, and my wife was educated and had a double degree. And, the influence of Michael, as well as my wife, that sort of led to me starting to look outside of rugby league, and I started doing a uni degree over there. So
nice.
that was something which that was big for me, and I had no aspiration to go to uni before that. But the NRL does pay to sort of subsidise your uni degree, and 2016 I was lucky enough to finish that. But learning off different players, like I played 2009 when Jared Hayne was untouchable. 10-11, like with Michael Luck, Simon Mannering. Simon Mannering was the captain, but he's the quietest dude in the group.
You knocked the Chooks out that year, didn't you?
10 or 11? Oh, maybe 11, because that was when the boys went to the grand final.
Yeah.
So I didn't play I played in the reserve grade grand final.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's such he was an 80-minute like player, quiet, unassuming, but just led with his actions, and true professional, sort of like that Cam McGuinness mold, just the way he looked after himself, but a fun dude off the field as well. And then, then I went to the Dragons 2012, a couple of years after they won the comp, and Wayne Bennett had just left, but you learn different things off different players, and there's a lot of guys there that played New South Wales and Australia. But yeah, mate, just the friendships that you build across time, and you watch what other players are doing, and you can be so influential on a young guy and trying to get them to come and do extras and
for sure.
You know, make sure they're looking after their body and, you know, then enjoying yourself when you get to let the hair down. And that's something I always did love about rugby league. It is, mate, it is. And that was something I did probably take advantage of a bit much at times. But, you know, when it was time to train, I friggin' ripped in and sweated it all out.
I feel like that's something I'm trying to be mindful of. Like, I don't drink because I've got liver disease.
Yeah.
So I can't. But
I wish I had that problem.
Right, it saved me so much money.
Yeah,
like
I could imagine.
when I think of the Queen, it saved me, and the hangovers and the Panadol, mate. I'm so lucky, and because I've never had a drink. Like, I developed liver disease at 9, so it's actually what stopped me playing footy, mate. My dream as a child. It's actually funny. I put up a thing on my Instagram story yesterday. I was listening to Theo Von.
Was that your capsule thing? I think I saw it.
Yes, the time capsule thing. Yeah. And I'm like, I was listening to Theo Von and Joe Rogan on a podcast, and they were talking about time capsules. I don't know why. They just referred to a time capsule. I thought, fuck, I remember burying one of those when I was like 6 at school. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure we put like a class letter and all little personal like goals in it. And I reckon if you dug it up, like mine would have been to be Batman or the fucking next Brad Fittler.
Really? Yeah.
It would have been one of the two, or probably both. And like I loved footy, lived for it as a kid. Like it was my existence, and I was good at it as a young fella. Yeah. Because I was athletic and fast, but then at 9, when I developed liver disease, my liver was hanging below my rib cage, and so was my spleen. Yeah. So they said, well, you're at risk of getting hit and it rupturing. Yeah. And like if it ruptures and you don't stop the internal bleeding, you die. Yeah. And so I remember I was like untouchable in my mindset as a kid. So CF didn't bother me. It was just like, it was a badge of honour because I could do everything I wasn't supposed to do in spite of it.
Great mentality.
Great mentality, which is my parents. Like they bred that into me, and it's why I am the way I am today. And I remember at 9, sitting in the doctor's room, we'd do annual review tests every year, and he goes, mate, you've got liver disease and it's going to change a few things. And I said, oh, what's it change? And he goes, well, you got to take a couple extra tablets a day. And I'm like, mate, take 30 a day already. I'm sweet. Like, put an extra 2 in there. Yeah. I don't care. And then he's like, oh, but I don't think you should be playing rugby league. And mate, my heart sunk. Yeah. And I was like, that's the thing I love. Like, that's what I loved. It's what I seen as my future. You know, I was only young at the time, so you don't realise that there's so much more to life outside 100%. Of the thing you're passionate about. But I remember saying to my mum and my dad, no, I'm not quitting. I'm not giving it up. And I remember there was this really powerful moment. I always think of it when my dad said to me, well, mate, it's your choice. And he sort of put it in my hands. Yeah. And then I remember thinking, yeah, I've got to give this up, don't I? Yeah. And then you find
Whereas if he's telling you, you can't do it, you can't do it.
You want to rebel.
I'm going to play.
Like, I'm playing.
That's human psychology, right? What you get told you can't do.
And he was probably smart enough to know that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I'd stopped playing. I ended up in high school, they gave it as an elective for sport, and I watched all my mates sign up, and I thought, fuck, there's no way I'm watching these bastards play without me. Yeah. So Dad goes, well, mate, if you play, I'm coaching the side because I want to be able to make sure I'm there in case if anything happens. Yeah. And I'm like, all right. So we went to Clark Rubber and we bought like, like that foamy mat stuff, like it looks like a gym mat. And I also wrap that around my guts and we duct tape it to me. Yeah. So if I got hit, it'd kind of absorb a little bit of the blood. Yeah. Mate, I got fucking flogged a few times because I was a little whippet. Yeah. And
did the job?
Did the job. Yeah. Did the job. I'm still here to tell the story. So,
mate, I think I needed. I used to wear sternum guards there. Yeah. I got a couple of ribbage. I should have went to Clark Rubber.
Yeah, Clark Rubber saves you a fortune. And we I played footy, but I realised there's so much more to life. And for me, there was so many other things I was passionate about, and like just having my old man say, "Hey, it's your choice," made the world of difference. Yeah, made the world of difference.
So you get told, don't drink alcohol as a kid. Fuck, I'm going to drink alcohol. Yeah. Don't go to that party. I'm going to that party.
And that made all the difference for me. So like, I look at everything now through a positive lens and perspective, and I'm really lucky for that.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Super grateful for it. So yeah, like I've never had to get worried about getting carried away on a good time, but I think it's really important for people to have balance. And, what I originally was getting to before I went on my tangent there was, I look at a few things I do now, and I've actually had to pull myself up on it pretty recently. I can be a little bit guilty of setting such big goals all the time, and I'm always working towards something and not really enjoying what's in front of me. Yeah. And I'm in a place now where I'd like to think if I'm running 40 Ks a week and looking after the body and there's no injuries, I can run a marathon.
Yeah.
So I'm doing Melbourne Marathon in October, and I'm going to do probably another one in December and one in April next year. But I kind of just want to enjoy the process of running with mates, having a good time, ripping into my career and having a crack, but appreciate and being able to live and enjoy the moments and go on a holiday and not have to think about, I've got to be training 24/7 to keep myself in good shape.
Yeah.
And that's the balance.
It's the journey. It's always about the journey, yeah?
It is.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and because guys like David Goggins have become extremely popular. I fucking love Goggins.
Yeah,
the guy's a freak.
Great mentality. I try and watch him on YouTube.
Yeah, great mentality. But then I look at Goggins sometimes and I think, fuck, well, that's what that guy does for a living.
Yeah.
He's a badass for a living. So the regular human being can't push himself to the point where they can't speak the next day.
He's got a tolerance like no other.
Yeah.
Like, and he's built that up through his journey to get to the point where he is. And, you know, people will be watching that going, man, I can't do that. But it starts with taking one step and, then you take two the following day and then you don't know where that journey eventually ends.
And for him, that's his enjoyment. So I think you've got to find find a balance between enjoying what you do.
Yeah.
But then also having the discipline to get after it when you don't want to.
Yeah.
Talk to me about, change the topic a little bit here. You've obviously had different experiences at different clubs. Did you get to travel a bit during your career?
Yep. Always off season. So, you know, that was one of the awesome things of the rugby league world. You get 8 weeks off through, hopefully October, November, but sometimes September, October, depending on how the team went. And, you know, I was lucky enough to make the, what team was it? The Prime Minister's team. And I went and played in Papua New Guinea, which was an unreal experience. You know, it's the only place in the world where rugby league's the number one sport. And that was absolute madness and something that, you know, I'm so grateful to experience. So I was never a superstar, but that was a reward at that point in time for the footy I was playing at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously jet set it around the world in the off season. I went to Vegas and a couple of times in New York on my honeymoon and Mexico, all the islands, you know, Bali, Fiji. Went to England and France with the World Club team at Cronulla Sharks, which was a cool experience.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm heading to Amsterdam and Oktoberfest this year, actually.
Oh, nice.
With Jimmy Maloney and a couple of the other best mates.
Because Oktoberfest is actually in September, isn't it?
Correct, end of September,
Yeah.
So
that'll be good fun.
It will be fun, yeah. And that's, Do you know Jimmy Grehan? He's from the Gong. He's probably
What's his
younger
surname?
than me. James Grehan, Jimmy. He's a carpet layer.
Yeah, fuck, the name rings a bell.
Yeah. He played a heap of footy around here, but he's one of the best mates. So, yeah, we're going over there together and
That's mad.
It'll be fun.
Did you ever play any club footy around here, like post Dragons?
I'm still playing.
Who are you playing for?
So, my first year when I was retiring, the plan was to play for George-Illawarra, where Jimmy was playing at the time.
Yeah. So, you know Mark Carberry and all that?
He's
on the board
I know
there.
Carberry,
Yeah, Carbs. He's my godfather.
Carbs, sorry. I've got him saved under Carbs.
Yeah, he's my godfather.
Oh, fair dinkum.
Yeah.
Okay.
My dad's best mate, so
really?
I've been for years, yeah.
Okay. So COVID hit and knocked that on the head, but then I come back and played it. They went and played in a Sydney-wide comp, so I just played a couple of games with Jimmy down here. Then last year I played half a year at Mittagong before the COVID knocked it out, and then I've played 2 games in the last month for Mittagong, so because Jimmy's captain coaching them now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I played.
Mate, he loves it. He's a mental case.
He does love it, mate. He's a year younger than me now, so he will. I think this is his last year. He reckons playing, but I think he's coaching next year.
Yeah.
But you know, they love their footy down there, the Middle boys, and
and great experience for those young fellas to come through and have guys like you who have been where a lot of them maybe want to be, or at some point wish they could have been, you know, playing footy, and to be able to learn off you and hear your stories, I reckon that would light them up. Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. And Bryson Goodwin, he's an ex-NRL boy, he's down there as well. So, yeah, mate, it's a bit of fun, but I am getting older now, and I don't know how many more years I could do it for. But I enjoy, you know, being around the group, and I still do love the contact and, you know, that camaraderie that rugby league brings. How is it like... You know, you've had a missus for ages now. You're married, and how old are the kids? My boy is 9 and my daughter's 6. Sorry, he turns 9 in October. My daughter's 6. Yeah, so they got the opportunity to watch you play some of your footy. Yeah, he remembers. Your daughter would have been really young when you were playing, but how is that like when you're sort of moving around and shifting your life when you got a family. Is that hard?
Yep. Yeah, look, it was a bit of a roller coaster at times. And, I went from Dragons 2012, Penrith for 4 years. So I was in the Shire for 3 years, and we ended up moving to Concord because my wife was working at Macquarie Park at the time, which it made sense to move closer to there in Penrith. And then, come back to the Shire again. And I think we moved 3 times since 2017 again. So it is hard, though, especially with the kids. And, I remember at one point in time, my son was nailing the toilet training, and then he had to share a room with my daughter for a bit because we moved back into a unit we owned in Cronulla to sell. And she used to scream and cry in the middle of the night, and she just ruined all that for him. But look, it's at the same time, like moving clubs, we've got so many great memories of all the places we've lived in. And when we're in the unit in Cronulla, we're a couple hundred metres from the beach. So that was obviously the plus side of that.
How does kids change your mindset? I'm without kids, I'm without a partner. Mate, if I could hold a relationship down for 3 months, I'd be proud of myself.
Yep.
And it's not for lack of trying either. I look at that and I think, I don't think I'd be ready to have kids until I'd be ready to give the commitment that my parents gave to me. Yep. Like, my parents are my heroes.
Yep.
The two most admirable people I could ever look to, the two people that I'd go to with anything. If I ever had troubles or problems or things I needed figured out in life, the two people I respect, them and my younger sister, Shania, are my world. Like, I'd do anything for them. I look up to them so much. And because of them, I'm the human being that I am. And I look at that role of being a parent, and I think it's the biggest purpose that anyone can ever have in the world is to bring kids into the world, to teach them about life and to give them the confidence and the loving environment to succeed and flourish and be the best version of themselves. And so whenever I speak to parents, I'm really interested by not only the responsibility of that role, but what it's done for them.
Yep, no, for sure, mate. And look, so my son was born at the end of 2013. So before 2013, I'd played probably 50 games across 5 years.
Yeah.
From that point in time, like when my son come, I think I didn't miss a game I missed 2 games in my next 100.
Yeah.
And I played really good, consistent footy. And, I'd look at photos of him before the game and had all these quotes. Rugby league players have all these funny processes they go through to prepare for a game. And at that point in time, it was my boy, and, trying to do the best I could to support the family. And, it makes you emotional when you think about it. Like, it really does change your life. And, especially as footballers, you can be a bit selfish sometimes, and, you're so single-minded. But having a little one come into the world really did change my purpose in life. And even now, like, I still every year read Raising Young Boys, Raising Young Girls, just to freshen the mind.
Who wrote that?
Oh God, you've got me.
Because I've heard people talk about this.
Yeah, I can't even tell you. He wrote both of them though, because then there's another one of like Making of Young Men, and there's all these different books that I just love reading, because I feel like you can forget some of the stuff,
For
and
sure.
The kids get older every year, so they're going through different things themselves. And then my young bloke's 9 now, so he's going to start getting testosterone and that soon. And it's just it's something that every day, like, I'm working on to be a better parent, because
I love to hear that.
They are my purpose in life.
Mate, it's funny, like, there's a quote that I love, and I don't know this from a parent standpoint. I reckon you could speak to this, but in many ways, it's why I'm very grateful for my CF, and this is how I'll frame it. So there's a quote, I'm sure you've heard it, and it goes, hard times create strong men create easy times create weak men create hard times.
Yeah.
That's why, and then it's this guy saying it on stage, and he said that's why we must raise warriors.
Yeah.
And I love that quote, and I think I've been very lucky where I look at my old man and my grandparents. My grandparents live below where we are right now. Yeah. My pop and my nan on my dad's side, and my mum's lost both her parents now, and she lost her dad at 16 or 17.
Oh, wow.
My nan a couple of years ago. But I look at my pop and sort of the father figure he was for my dad. Amazing father.
Yeah.
Really loving human being. Me, my pop and my nan get on amazing. See him, spend time with him every week, talk to him every day on the phone. They're great. And they grew up in a very different time. A time where times were tough.
Yeah.
You worked for every penny you had. You saved every penny you didn't need to spend. And you know, my pop was a copper in Berkeley at the time. And so my dad and my uncle, you know, grew up hard because at the time there were a lot of people who either loved or hated coppers in Berkeley. So being the copper's son, you know, they copped the brunt of it, right? And it made them really tough, hard blokes. Yeah. Loving, but very hard blokes. And I look at my dad and, you know, as a parent, and same for my mum, they were thrust into they were so planned to have a child, like owned and built the family home. Dad had a couple of jobs, mum had a couple of jobs. They were ready to give everything to their first child. Then I come along with CF. What the fuck's CF? How do we deal with that? You know, then they're learning on the go. They've done an amazing job. They, you know, if someone could write a textbook on how to parent a child with CF, it'd be them. Yeah, right. Wow. They've done so well. And I look at that and I go, mate, they made things so easy for me that had I have not been born with CF, I think times could have been, like I could have been maybe a little bit weak and privileged. Yep. I'm so glad that I've had a challenge or been primed for challenge in my life because they done such a good job. It would have been easy for me just to think the world was rosy. Yep. But that's the challenge of being a great parent is not only like making things easier than they were for you when you grew up, like that's the goal for every parent, to give their child a great life, but also remembering that like, sometimes adversity is going to hit them and challenges will hit them and they've got to be primed for that too. For sure. And I feel like we're in a very unique period now with social media and accessibility to the internet and what kids are exposed to. It's such a tricky landscape and something I'm nervous about because, I don't plan on our children getting phones or something until they're in high school. That's something that actually scares me and worries me. For sure. You know, I don't think I had anything. I think I got MySpace when I was 19. Like I didn't have any of the social medias. Yeah. Got a mobile phone when I was 18 or 17. But you know, that landscape and trying to manage kids through that and online bullying and, you know, there's some big bad people out there. That's something which, that's a real challenge as a parent. But like you say, adversity for kids isn't a bad thing. You know, they need to get used to losing in life because I feel like sometimes kids are a bit protected from it. And, you know, my missus gets a bit frustrated sometimes, but I hate the participation awards for kids. Fuck. You need to learn to win. And lose. Like it's not, hey, everyone had a good day, here's a trophy. No, fuck no, you got to earn that shit. And I'm not Goggins or anything, but I think things that I know in my childhood which shaped me, you know, persisting with being a rugby league player and got me through, you know, 180 odd NRL games. If I was given participation awards, I don't know if I would have been able to do it. But I just had shit happen to me, which lit the fire under my ass and made myself push myself. And, you know, you talk about the Christmas Day train and doing stuff like that. That's what I would do because of stuff that happened, which led to me following that path. Well, that's the thing, right? If it's too easy as a kid and you think that everything's a win, fuck, you're going to get a shock when you get older. Yeah. Because life's not easy. Yeah. You know? It's actually not. And I was literally saying this a couple of days ago. When you're at school, you're like, oh, fuck, I can't wait to be an adult. But, mate, I'm literally in my young bloke had a bad day. I go, mate, you love every minute of school because life does get harder and harder. Like, and it's awesome. And, you know, you have so many awesome experiences, but you got to work, you got to pay bills, you're constantly... Well, life's simple, but it's hard. Yeah. Like, the ingredients to a good life are simple, and I'm learning that as I look back now. I've been doing that. We're talking about Ben Crowe before, the mindset coach, and I've been doing his mindset course. His team gifted me a subscription to his online training, which is really kind of him. I've been in contact with him for a bit, and one of the first parts of it, so it's 3 chapters. It's who am I, what do I want, and how do I get there? Yeah. And part of who am I is the first exercise you do is you go back and you recall the earliest memory you can think of and explain all the feelings that you felt in that moment. And I've got a really good memory, so I can properly picture exactly what I was wearing, what was happening on a day when I was 3. Fair income. Yeah. Far out. I'm shocking. Wearing a stripy shirt, denim overalls, a navy blue corduroy cap, mowing the lawn with my dad. I was 3 years old, out in the backyard. I was pushing a fake lawnmower. He was pushing a real one. Yeah. I remember coming inside and sitting down. My mum had made me a salmon and beetroot sandwich, which was my favourite. Yeah. And mum giving me a kiss. And I remember just feeling loved, valued, appreciated, supported. And like I had a reason to be here.
Yep.
And it's funny when it asks you to explain those feelings and recall that moment. I thought, far out, I was 3.
You can still
And
remember
I talk about
vividly.
being loved, appreciated,
Yep.
like I had value. It's all the things that you want in life right now, right?
Yeah.
So life is simple, but it's become difficult and complicated because of the world that we live in right now.
Yeah.
And that's the challenge, is figuring out, well, how in this world do I navigate those simple things?
And simplify shit.
Yeah.
Because I know, and yeah, human psychology was spoken about. It's so easy to look back and look at shit that's been negative, but you just got to flush that, live for the now. And that's something I'm working on every day, because I can often fall back into that trap of looking at shit that happened, which, you know, that's not going to help my future. I need to control the controllables. And that was a big thing I learned in rugby league. Accountability, control the controllables. Don't look back, worry about what you can do now.
I love that.
I think, human nature, you can often get caught, shit, if I didn't do that then, I wouldn't be here now. Like, and every day I fucking, it happens. Like, and I'm like, nah, flush it.
Bloody
got
oath.
to remove yourself from it.
So there's 5 questions I ask at the end of every podcast now. It's sort of like a consistent theme. And the 5 questions, the way I release this podcast is I release the full episode, where this will be like the beautiful conclusion to the chat we've had and give people a really good idea of who you are and some closing wisdom, we'll call it.
Yeah.
Or they may be experiencing this as a trailer. So I put out a shorter episode as well. So people can come listen to just like 5 questions and 5 answers, which give them a really good idea of who you are and what the chat might have been like.
Yep.
And then if they love it, they dive into the full app.
Awesome.
So we'll jump into the 5 questions. It's the same for every guest. The first question is, if you could only recommend one book or one podcast to someone listening, what would it be?
The book I would recommend, I've just read that. I was telling that Ant Middleton's Zero Negativity, and it just speaks to me at the moment, trying to not have that negative mindset with shit. So definitely that. And I'm on the Jay Shetty train for a podcast at the moment. He's just, covers all topics, and
so good.
Really speaking to me at the moment as well.
You know what I like about Jay is one of my favourite quotes of all time is by him, where he was on another podcast as a guest, and they asked him, what's one thing that you don't value that others do? And he said, being understood. And I'm like, fuck, I reckon that's something to work towards in life. The power of not feeling like you need everyone to understand who you are or why you do things. Like, that guy is so wise.
So wise. And follow him on Instagram. I've only recently started following him, but mate, every day I'm screenshotting whatever he puts up and go back in the archives
quality,
and pick you up on a down day.
The cool thing about him is he's spiritual, but he's also very practical. He's spiritual, like, you know, he's got that monk background. There's other guys who are like him, but it's not practical for the everyday human being who goes to a 9-to-5 job and, you know, has to pick up the kids from school or pay the bills. Like, he's got practical wisdom that makes life easier and simpler for people who are doing everyday tasks.
Simple. I think, human psychology, overcomplicate shit, keep it simple.
Definitely.
Which I have to remind myself daily as well. I'm not all over this yet.
Right, I'm the same. It's always a work in progress.
Yeah.
The second is, what's one skill you'd recommend mastering that significantly improved your life?
Yeah, being able to talk to people. Just, you know, being able to get around a room and, you know, talk to a bloke who's the CEO of a company, to being able to talk to the bloke who's the garbage truck man. Just, you know, and that's, I feel, maybe I'm lucky in the aspect I've always had rugby league to talk about, and people want to talk about footy, and if they know you're a footy player. But I feel like it's just a skill that I've always had, where I can, you know, relate to people and have something to talk about. But yeah, if you can talk to anyone in the room, you're going to be successful. Yeah,
I love that. The third, this is an interesting little shift of pace here, is the one challenge you face that has required the most resilience to overcome.
Yeah, probably the one that's retiring from rugby league. That you know, I spoke about, you know, you lose an identity and you got to build a new identity. Probably that, you know, you go from being around 30 lads, training, doing whatever, doing the job that you've dreamt about since you were, you know, a young bloke, to now I'm in the business world. I'm a mortgage broker, and I work with the Dragons. I do stuff with the NRL. Obviously still aligned with, you know, some of aligned with rugby league, but just having to build that new identity. And how I do that is through structure, training every day, stuff with the family, just building things around it. So I'm looking after the head noise and the mental health upstairs.
Like we said, that Jocko Willink
Yep.
link, discipline equals freedom. I love
sure.
that.
Yep.
So true.
Yeah.
The fourth is, what's a daily habit or ritual? It could be a morning routine or an evening routine that sets you up for a day of success.
Yep. Probably training. I train every single day. But like I mentioned, I meditate. I try and meditate every day. I train every day, and I do gratitude every night.
Is every day a morning session?
I take that back. Meditate might be only 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll train 6-7 days a week. And
Yeah, man.
gratitude nearly pretty well 7 nights a week. It's only if I forget.
I love it.
Yeah.
I've actually found probably similar to what you're saying there. I used to do like a bit of journaling in the morning. So I had a really solid morning routine. I'd get up 4:45, 4:30 most days, probably 6 out of 7 days. And I'll get up, listen to a podcast or audio book, have a stretch, have a roll, get the old body moving, 26 and it feels fucking 56 at times.
Come see me in 10 years, brother.
And with your knocks to an injury, it's bloody hell.
Far out.
And then I'll go for a run or go to the gym or a walk or whatever, jump in the ocean, grab a coffee, then I'd come back and like journal. But I found the best time to journal or reflect was actually in the night for me. Because I'm naturally a pretty positive guy. And I found like in the morning I was already positive anyways.
Well, you're waking up fresh, right?
Waking up fresh.
Nighttime, you've had your day's experiences.
Some things have gone wrong.
Yeah. Mate, that poor person was awesome. Far out, I did this. 100%. And because, mate, funny you say, that's something I'm trying to get into my daily routine as well because, I'm up and down with a few things in my life. And, I find when I am doing that, and you blah on the paper, you feel better.
Feel better, bro.
Yeah.
You can just get it out of your head. You can go to bed and then you can bloody assess it tomorrow if you need to.
Correct. And tomorrow's always a new day as well.
Exactly. And then you look at it with new perspective and you have a laugh. Usually you're like, fuck, what was I stressing about that for yesterday?
For sure.
Yeah. The fifth and final question, the most important question for me, and I think a really good opportunity for anyone who comes on the podcast is, what message would you share with the world if you can encourage them to act on it? If there was one message you'd want to give to the people listening or watching, what would that message be?
Mate, especially, the Paddy, the UFC guy the other day, check on your friends, check on your family.
Yeah.
You don't know what any individual's going through and, just through simply asking how someone's doing, it might change their whole day. You don't want to lose a loved one. And that simple conversation and putting your arm around a mate can change, that person's life.
For sure. And, you said it there, the simple conversation. Conversation is so powerful. It connects people. It allows people to overcome problems. I always hope that when someone's sitting here listening to or watching this, that the guests that I have on, they'll be inspired by their story and find something in themselves to realise that, everyone's got the opportunity to live a great, happy life.
Yeah.
You just got to find what that means and what that looks like for yourself. And, mate, it's been a pleasure to sit here with you. And I say this all the time on the podcast because I'm very selective with who I have on. But you're a very good human, mate. You can tell that. And everyone I've spoken to thus far who's had an experience with you says really big things about you, not just for how funny you were or for the fact that you're a great footy player, but for the fact that you're a really good human. And that's what I love. I love when you can sit down with someone who is known for a certain thing, and for you it's rugby league at this point in your life anyways, and they go, yeah, footy, he's a good footy player, but fuck, he's a good man. So, mate, congratulate you on all your success thus far and looking forward to staying in touch.
Mate, thanks, Brad. I really appreciate you having me on, mate. As I said, I've come across your stuff, and as an outsider, and now you're a mate. You're changing people's lives, and you're having a crack. And to follow your dream and go away from something where you weren't earning good money, that was a thing which I mentioned to you. Really spoke to me. Following that purpose and passion, and for all the people who listen or watch. I think that's a key message, to do what you're doing, mate. You're doing awesome, and thanks for the kind words as well. And
mate,
that's
I appreciate
something I'm always humbled by.
Mate, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you
so much.
Cheers.